So the idea around a flat tax being like fair, I used to believe this as well. That I was like, well, we just charge everyone like 10% or 15%, 20%. It's flat, it's across the board. Everyone pays the same. Percentage wise, yeah, it's the same. It's fair in a percentage, but it's not actually fair when you break down like real world issues. So let's just say you make 40,000 a year, and it's a 10% tax, so you'd have to pay $4,000 that year. So you'd have $36,000 to live off of. That's pretty tight. It was already tight at 40,000. Now you're at 36,000. But now let's say you make 400,000 a year, and you have to pay 10%. You're paying $40,000 in taxes, but you still have $360,000 to live off of. That's pretty sweet. You'd be like, yeah, I still have $360,000. I'll be fine. This is why it's viewed as a regressive tax. It doesn't scale. It scales, but it doesn't scale enough. Like, it's not properly scaled. You start getting into really big numbers and really small numbers. You start really seeing the difference in how much it affects people. And it's typically a flat tax affects poor people more because they have less to work with. They have less money to work with, and you're still taking 10% of it. So say you had 40,000, let's just say it was a 5% tax on people who make that much. They get an extra $2,000 to work with because they're only taxed $2,000. But keep it at 10% for 400,000 people, or at the $400,000 mark, they're paying $40,000 that year. They can afford to pay $40,000 because it's 10% of their total income. It's not much to them. 10% to poorer people is more. 10% to richer people is less. And that's where I think a lot of people really like to look at the side of this where it's like, oh, well, look how much is contributed. When you should look at that, but also look at how much is left. If you had, $100,000 at 10%, you're paying $10,000. Okay, I still have 90,000. But if you have $10,000 and you're paying 10%, you have to pay 1,000. You're like, oh, I only got $9,000. Like, oh, I gotta make it last. That's the gist of it. I don't know how many times you say it or think about it, but it's essentially an unfair tax. A regressive tax is what it's been called. And it's not to diminish people who believe in it or anything like that. Like I said, I used to think like, oh yeah, that just do flat tax. It makes sense. But it really doesn't. And the people who make more are able to pay more. I'm not saying like let's tax them into oblivion and like make it so that if you're making 40 or 400,000, you get 40,000 to work with. We're gonna tax you 90%. I'm not talking like that. I'm just saying it's like, hey, if you're making 400,000, you can be taxed more than 10%. If you're making 40,000, 10% is quite a bit of your income. You already break down, if you're budgeting, you break down, oh, I got 10% for this, I got 30% for housing, I got 40% for this. It's great to work in percentages, but it doesn't always pan out. And it's important to look at the real world scenarios, like actual income, real income, your purchasing power, stuff like that. So hopefully that kind of helps explain it. It's not to like throw stones at people. It's just to like, you don't know what you don't know. That's just how it is. That's how it's always gonna be. Is you don't know what you don't know, and that's why I make videos like this. Is try to myself learn and then also teach others.